Steppin with Marcus J is back from the break. I'm so happy to be up in here and playing Prince-centric music. We done played Morris Day in a Time, a little Sheila E. and whatnot. Played a little Prince earlier and whatnot. His birthday, of course, was on Friday. 55 years old, y'all. I hope I look that damn fly when I'm 50 or 40.
Man, did you realize that Denzel is 59?
Yeah, I know. Denzel about to be 60 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Man. Yeah.
My mama ain't gonna stop looking at him.
But then
no.
But then you see, and then you see like Cicely Tyson, who was old when
40.
we was little.
Like 25.
Yeah, she was born at like 48 years old. Like, damn, like for real, have you ever been a young woman?
Her and Morgan Freeman.
But you know, there's some. Yeah. Oh gosh, yo, did y'all see Morgan Freeman fall asleep in the interview he did like 2 weeks ago? Yo, he's in an interview, a television interview, and he pulled the old man fall asleep thing. Yo,
he's like 75.
70. He just had a birthday recently. Oh, he's older than
75
that.
or 76.
74. That's the number. He's 74. I just saw
whatever you want at 74.
You don't get to fall asleep on television in front of people.
Hey, we had a deacon that used to go to sleep in church. And
but
you knew the service was boring because he started snoring.
Everybody goes to church. Is always boring, so everybody always falls asleep.
Oh, boo to you.
Girl,
boo.
please don't act like you ain't never fell asleep.
I
in
don't
church.
go to sleep. Not in my church, brother.
You ain't never in your
You ain't
life.
never been to church. How you gonna tell me?
I'm
just messing with you now.
about to say.
You gonna what? What you gonna do? What you gonna do? I ain't scared.
Boy, she gonna punch you in the face.
I ain't scared.
You're not fast enough to catch me because I'm gonna hit you and I'm gonna run.
Okay.
Y'all are cracking
She said she gonna run.
Y'all cracking me up. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. A couple of real quick things I want to get into, and I typically will save some of the more incendiary type of conversations to the end, and of course tonight will be no different. Anybody that knows me knows I don't run from racial discussions. You know, I know some people do. Some people like to hold hands and sing kumbaya like everything is great and say that we live in a post-racial world when we know that's bull. And it's not the reality. I know that we were talking in the previous segment about the prisons that are being opened up in Philadelphia and how that coincides with the schools being closed in some of the black neighborhoods. And I know that there's some that may be listening that may not see the direct correlation, where I disagree. I know that there's some that may not see the direct correlation of the Clinton administration signing into law that you can go to jail for a long time for having a crack rock, which we know is found in lower income, which is primarily ethnic or minority areas, versus having powder cocaine, which is where rich people and Caucasians normally have. You got crack, you go to jail for 5 years. You got powder cocaine, you go to jail for 5 days. I mean, we're not talking about something that can't be looked up here. And when we have those conversations, we talk about the fact that the judicial system, in some instances, not everywhere, but in a lot of instances, the judicial system is set up in a way to adversely affect people in lower incomes. And we live in a world where it may not always be black and white, but it's certainly about rich and poor, which I think is where the world is going. If you rich and you black, then you cool. If you poor and you white, then you ain't cool. It is what it is. But you got a Texas judge. This is a woman that sits on the bench who allegedly said that blacks and Hispanics commit more heinous crimes. You got a coalition of civil rights organizations that have filed a misconduct complaint last week, against a conservative federal judge for comments that she allegedly made during a speech that were, of course, seen as discriminatory. You got Judge Edith Jones of the 5th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, which is based in New Orleans, and she basically made those comments. And so I'm going to start with you, Tony. I'm going to flesh this out a little bit more, but she's based in New Orleans. She's addressing the University of Pennsylvania Law School on February 20th. Her comments were not recorded, but you had 5 students and 1 attorney who were in attendance, and they all signed affidavits basically stating what she said. Those were used to generate a 12-page complaint filed in New Orleans, stating that Jones has, quote, engaged in conduct that is prejudicial to the effective and expeditious administration of the business of the courts, undermines public confidence in the integrity. I lost my place. In the integrity and impartiality of the judiciary, and creates a strong appearance of impropriety. Coincidentally, Donald Trump, who we all know who he is, he needs no introduction, made very, very similar comments recently, even citing a very reputable source by the name of Bill O'Reilly as to where he got his information from. So I guess the question that I want to ask is, if we live in a country where you've got people in prominent positions, Bill O'Reilly being on television every single night, Donald Trump being a major figure nationally with the platform to pretty much say whatever he wants and people will listen and follow him. This woman who actually sits on the bench and is in a position to hand out sentences to people who she already feels are predisposed to heinous crimes. Do we feel as though that is something that has just become par for the course in the country that we live in? Or is this something that's worth discussion in the sense that, do we need to get this woman off the bench because she appears to be unfair? Now, no one recorded it, but you got 6 people basically, who signed affidavits that said, yes, she said these things. And we know Donald Trump said it because he tweeted it. It's out there. We know he said it. What's your thoughts on that?
First off, unfortunately, there are countless other judges, I'm sure, who share that sentiment, but might be smart enough not to say it publicly. I do think that she should lose her seat as a judge. And unfortunately, since slavery, black people have been seen as savage people. So of course, when we do come before a judge or even convicted or charged with some sort of crime, it's expected because that's quote unquote that's how we are. We're these savage people and we're so aggressive and violent. I think that a lot of people can kind of just hold on to that free speech. That's why people like Bill O'Reilly can do what they do and be successful, and people still like him, and he's able to say whatever he wants, and have people like Donald Trump on the show who confirm that and support him. I think that it's up to us as black people to change that perception that other races and other people have of us as being violent. Also, whenever I hear somebody say something like that, black people, Latinos, we commit all these heinous crimes, how many black or Latino serial killers have there been? Not a lot. Well,
we're continuing to get more hits, and I won't call a person out because the conversation is beginning to get a little incendiary. If they want to call in, they know the number. It's 804-402-2893. But we've got someone that's hitting us up that's basically saying, so let me get you this straight. Your argument is more minorities are being sent to prison, and the judge says basically what you're saying, more crimes equals more time, and she's bad and you're fine. And she's basically calling us on bullshit. And I called it out. I called bullshit. I said it on the air. Your response to that? I told the person commenting they're welcome to call in and debate us on the air. They don't want to do that, but they are insulted by what we've said about this judge. Do you have a comment directly to that person?
I mean, if there are people who confirm that she said that, I mean, if that, I don't see how you can debate that. I mean, are there figures, are there numbers that you feel support differently, or do you feel she's justified in saying that because that's what she sees in her courtroom? I don't understand.
Let's give the person who's debating the opportunity to first see what they're saying. You have to, when you make an accusation like that, again, it is a sworn affidavit. What they're saying is supposedly true, but where do the facts lie? When a white man, black man, Chinese man, Latino, when those 4 men came into my court, did I judge them all the same? Were they given equal opportunity? Were they given the same amount of time? And was the track record the same? You have to look at that factor first. Then the next factor is, are the number of people who've come to me been of equal amounts? Has it been 10% white? Has it been 50% black? Has it been 20% Latino? Has the other percentage been Chinese? are those demographics across the board the same number? I understand what the person is saying, or how they're feeling about the situation, because of the simple fact you have to be able to back up the numbers or what those people are saying that is inflaming everybody from that standpoint. I'm not saying she's right. I'm not saying she's wrong. However, I've seen on TV, again, I'm speaking from TV, I'm not into the legal system, when you have a judge who has been portrayed as not being fair, then they have to go back and look at every case that this person has judged or presided over and see that there is a pattern. And at that time, can you make such a statement? So you have people who are coming out saying, boom, yeah, I admit she's done it. Okay, where are your facts that she has done this? And yes, you've overheard me say some stuff that may have been crass or indifferent. But again, where are your facts that is my practice and that is my belief in everyday circumstances?
I'm getting the listener is clarifying their statement, and I may have misrepresented what their position is. So let me clarify. They're actually upset not with what our interpretation is, but what the judge actually said. And what they're saying is they're more mad about what she said. She thinks that white people think black people are somehow like wild animals that are violent. That's actually what she's mad about. So I think she's agreeing with us. Listener, please clarify if I'm still misrepresenting you. Again, you got the right to call us 804-402-2893 or continue to hit me up on the email like you're hitting me up. But here's my thing for those people who have issue with, because I'm sure there may be some, when you look at a situation, you've got stop and frisk. When you know that stop and frisk, based on the numbers in the most prominent area where they do it, which is New York City, we know that the numbers show that they predominantly do it in Black and Latino neighborhoods, and they generally come out with nothing. And I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but I have had the numbers and have said them on the air. And the fact of the matter is, stop and frisk, if you stop and frisk 100 people and you come out with one gun, so it's okay that you violated 99 people to get one gun. You've got someone that sits on the bench, that already is predisposed to believe that a certain segment of the population is already going to do dirt. So you would guess that it would be difficult for, someone to come in there and get a fair trial when they know that the judge already thinks negatively of you. What if you get a bench trial and not a jury trial? You can pretty much forget about it. You can forget about it in that sense. And I think that it's difficult, when you've got people in authority who already feel this way, especially when you've got a 911 caller. And I talked about this on my Facebook, not a 911 caller, 911 operator, who was recently fired because she goes on a rant on her Facebook page, once again, social media, getting folks in trouble, but she basically, again, makes a very similar assertion. You can have any kind of feelings that you want to feel, and you can say what you want to say. We got free speech in this country. You got the right to say what you want to say. But as I've learned from doing this show, just because you got the right to say what you want to say, people who hear you say it got a right to respond and react. And if you say something like black people and Latinos are more likely to create, do heinous crimes, then yeah, somebody's going to call you out on it. And, I'm not going to sit here and debate, the messed up stuff that white people do and the messed up stuff that black people do. I'm not going to sit here and debate that. I'm not going to talk about, about that. And if I can sit here and I can roll off a bunch of stories that I know of where white folk done some real messed up stuff. But I'm not going to do that, because that's not what the point I'm making is. The point I'm making is you have to go and face a judge who got caught out there saying some crazy stuff, similar to how Mitt Romney got caught saying that 47% of people are beggars. Basically, this is what people think. And if this is what people think, some people who represent larger numbers of people, then you have to understand why those of us who have a platform like I have in this microphone, I'm going to call you out on bullshit. And that's just a reality. That's just a reality, because these people got to go to this court. Now, what if you somebody who was innocent and you got to go sit in front of this judge? Because we know that people that's what the Innocence Project is about. And they free people that are innocent all the time. You know what I'm saying? So, Carlton, help me understand how, we're not supposed to talk about the judge who said that, or the 911 person who goes on her Facebook page and says, quote, black people are like animals. This is someone who's tasked with sending the police to assist whoever calls. If you're a black person and you need help, if you're a white person that need help, if you're a black person and you're the person that needs to go to jail, then take your ass to jail. But the 911 person, just like the judge, should be impartial. It should not matter if you're black. It should not matter if you're white. It should not matter if you're male. It should not matter if you're female. If you need help, get somebody else out here. Get somebody out here to help me.
Let me speak on the 911 person first. 911 isn't just police. I understand you said police. I just want to go ahead and throw in the fact that it's also fire and emergency squads. And granted, everybody's entitled to their free speech. However, when you use social media to express that free speech, you're making yourself open and vulnerable to an attack and judgment that you may not consider wrong, right, or indifferent. At the same time, you're putting yourself out there. You're running a risk of everybody not trusting you again going forward. As for the judge, if I'm in front of her and my defense attorney, now knowing this information, doesn't question her or declare a mistrial, then I need me a new attorney, because of the simple fact he's not guaranteeing or protecting my rights as an innocent until proven guilty citizen in front of her. He's not doing his job of saying, Your Honor, you're not impartial to a decision based off of XYZ quote. Again, I still go back to my earlier statement that until I can look at the caseload and see if she's judged every race and every person in the same fashion, she still gets the benefit of the doubt. But until such time, I'm going to use that as my defense. I want, Judge Joe Brown, I don't know who my attorney is at this time, but I need her credentials clarified, because I read or saw somewhere that said she doesn't treat me as a black man fair, plain and simple. And I want a fair trial. If not, then I declare that this is a mistrial based off of XYZ information. So until such time she can prove otherwise, or the judicial system prove otherwise, she shouldn't preside over any cases, black, white, indifferent.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like there needs to be, of course, maybe at some point with regards to her keeping, or how they would handle her, discipline-wise, looking into her history and the type of cases that she's heard. She is a judge. And if she is making it very clear that she is prejudiced, meaning she has prejudged every person that comes before her, then to me, that in itself is enough to take her off the bench, at least temporarily.
Steppin with Marcus J. Last thing I want to get into in this segment before we close out the show and get into our rants and our closings is the former CIA agent who admitted responsibility Sunday for one of the most extraordinary leaks of classified information in U.S. history. He told The Guardian he exposed the documents because he thinks Americans should know how the government has intruded on their privacy. Basically, what you've got a guy who is basically admitting that the United States government is spying on their citizens. And I know it's a sensitive subject. I've had this conversation with some folks, and I'm just curious to understand you guys' opinion. I feel free, anybody that's listening, call us up. We're going to take 5 minutes on this, and then we're going to move on and close out the show. 804-402-2893. We basically know that this guy comes out and he was working for a company as a contractor. He had this classified information. He tells the company that he's going to take some time off. He tells his girlfriend, I'm going to be out for a little while. And then he goes to Hong Kong and he gives this story to a British newspaper, basically giving out classified information that confirms what most of us already knew, that the government spies on us. They listen to our phone calls. They read our emails. All that kind of stuff. So I'll start with you, Tony, on this one. And I'm going to take a very interesting position. Well, not position, but question. I'll ask you an interesting question. Knowing what you know about this story and knowing what you knew prior to this story, simply, do you have a problem, a personal problem with the United States government spying on you as an individual in the interest of national security? That's the question.
I guess I'll answer your question first. I do have a problem with it. However, if it keeps me and those I care about safe, then they can do what they need to do. Second part of that is, I don't know why so many people are just so surprised when they hear things like that. Again, I was in the military for 9 years, and people have alluded to for years, we joke about the man and Uncle Sam. But yes, they know a lot more about us than we would even imagine that they did know. And this is all even before all this technology and social media and things of that nature. So to me, anybody in the military and who has been in the military for any extended period of time knows that the government knows most of our personal information, our loved ones, our friends, our foes, whether you're in the military or not. So not a surprise to me, nothing new.
Carlton Banks, want to offer a comment on this, my brother?
Everybody who thinks that somebody isn't monitoring you, trust and believe, they know your IP address better than you know your IP address. Not saying one thing or another or implying something differently. Everything you do online isn't a secret. Somebody has seen it, viewed it, touched it, monitored it.
Well, the question is, do you have a problem with it? That's the question.
I can't have a problem with it because it's being done.
Well, just because it's being done doesn't mean that you don't have the right to have an opinion. And that's what I'm trying to get at, your opinion. Because we know the reality. The reality is something that we can't change. But what I want to know is how you feel about that reality.
I can't have a feeling because, truth be told, I know I don't know it's being done. I have the ideal that it's being done, and it's beyond my control, regardless of what stance I take on it. So I'm not one way versus the other.
I got
Plain
you.
and simple.
I got you. I remember 15 years ago, there was a movie called Enemy of the State with Will Smith in it. And this movie kind of blew you away when I don't know if anybody's ever seen it, and I'm not going to do a movie review, but it was basically speaking to a lot of what we're talking about now with the government surveillance, and they basically fixed his life in a negative way because they weren't happy with him. And if you want to see the movie, go and watch it. But they were doing stuff like tapping phones and they surveillance videos, and they were watching him from the satellite and out of space, and they were able to watch him in his own home based on the little light in his cable box had a camera in it, so they can watch him inside his house based on that. And this was 15 years ago, and I've heard it said that any technology that becomes available to you as a consumer has already been available to the government, in a governmental type of way long before you're able to get it as a consumer. And so I will say this, because I had this debate with a trusted elder before, and this person was telling me how this is not new, how they did this in World War II, and how they were tapping phones and able to create surveillance and all of that kind of stuff back then. I will say this, as Carlton Banks alluded to, I can't really say that I have an opinion about something that I can't control. But what I will say is this: if you bust in my house because you feel as though you got information and your information was bad, we're gonna have a real problem. Like the grandmother that got shot and killed, because they got bad intel because they thought it was a crack house when it was just a 90-year-old grandmother and they're chilling, and they were 2 doors off. If you're gonna be watching me and you're gonna be listening to my phone conversations and you're gonna be reading my emails and all that kind of stuff, you better damn get it right, for real. Because I know as a civilian and as a citizen, I don't really have a whole lot of recourse because, you can trust government all you want. I think you're crazy as hell if you trust the United States government, or if you trust the China government, or if you trust the English government or the Russia government. If you trust any government, you crazy. You just are, because you have seen, as an intelligent person, enough nonsense to make you believe that they are out for themselves and not necessarily for the people. And that's for another conversation for another day. We're going to leave it there. Ain't no how Steppin, Marcus J. Going to take our final break of the night. When we come back, we got our rants and we got our closings. Stay with us. I'm probably going to say something that's going to piss more people off, which is what we do on this show. Stay with me.